Soyez prêts à parier avec OneXBet. Gagnez gros.
Pariez et gagnez avec OneXBet. Pariez et gagnez avec OneXBet. Pariez et gagnez avec OneXBet. Pariez et gagnez avec OneXBet.
OneXBet, bookmaker fiable.
The weather forecast with C3 Production.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, and happy to have your company once again on the weather forecast. I hope you are having a beautiful evening. Between tonight and tomorrow morning, we expect light isolated showers to persist in some parts of the north region, while the rest of the nation remains calm. Temperatures may get as low as 15 to 16 degrees in the west and northwest regions, the Adamawa region getting a minimum of 17 degrees, and the south and far north regions as low as 18, with the southwest getting as low as 21 degrees. Detailing, we take you to the center, where tonight there may be no chance of precipitation in the entire region, and a similar experience expected by morning with as low as 19 degrees in Yaoundé. Next, we move over to the east region, where no chance of precipitation is expected tonight, and a similar situation by morning with temperatures between 19 to 21 degrees. Lastly, we go over to the north region, where we may have no chance of precipitation tonight, and by morning, light showers are expected to persist in Cholire. To protect yourself and others against the coronavirus, wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water, sneeze with a flexed elbow, and in case of symptoms, call 1510. See you next time.
As leader in third-generation audiovisual content, C3 Production offers you tomorrow's solutions today. Digital video production and broadcast, dataless e-learning platforms, virtual and augmented reality. C3 Production, mastery of innovation. Even perfection evolves.
People attend Governor's Caucus virtual meeting of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund hosted by Cameroon, with resolutions to be submitted in the next annual gathering. Actions to alleviate the plight of vulnerable indigenous people are under scrutiny. They are assessed today in Yaoundé by members of the Intersector Monitoring Committee under the patronage of the Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irene Ngene. Former statesman, senior civil administrator John Ebongole has begun his final journey to the world beyond. The coffin took place today at the Yaoundé Referral Hospital mortuary. And those are top stories. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the 7:30 News. With me, Gladys Tata.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Welcome back. The African Governors Caucus meeting for the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund has pledged to submit its conclusions to the next annual gathering of the institution. The meeting, virtually hosted yesterday by Cameroon here in Yaoundé, was attended by about 300 people, as Charles Ibune tells us.
At least 250 people were connected online for this year's Africa Governors Group meeting for the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, organized and held in Cameroon.
To come out with a very strong memorandum that is going to be presented to the two authorities of the World Bank Group as well as IMF General Managing Director.
The human capital development at a time when plus 1 million people are already infected by the coronavirus on the continent was focused.
It's about macro and fiscal consolidation and management in a moment like this one with huge constraints in terms of mobilizing resources, where expenditures are going up.
An event placed under the patronage of the President of the Republic of Cameroon, it was also the country's diplomacy displayed virtually.
Our country is honored. Our external relations policy and diplomacy is honored.
The outcome of the gathering will be used in the next annual meetings of the Bretton Woods institutions.
The African Day of Decentralization and Local Development comes up on Monday with focus on the contribution of local authorities to conflict prevention and peacekeeping on the continent. Ahead of celebrations to mark the day, the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, George Oilanga-Obam, has made a declaration to stimulate mobilization towards sensitization and education on them. Here's an excerpt of the Minister's declaration.
Celebration of this day aims to promote the appropriation of 9 principles and values formulated for stakeholders of the decentralization sector regarding local affairs, governance, meaning community participation and inclusiveness, solidarity, respect for human and people's rights, diversity and tolerance, justice, equality and equity, integrity, civic responsibility and citizenship, transparency and accountability and responsiveness.
A workshop to assess actions carried out by social actors in favor of indigenous persons and the fight against COVID-19 is underway in Yaoundé. Attending are members of the Intersector Monitoring Committee for programs and projects involving vulnerable indigenous persons in Cameroon. The workshop, which is in prelude to the International Day of the World Indigenous People, was chaired by Social Affairs Minister Pauline Irengene. Rainatou Sali completes the story.
They meet with one objective: address the issues of indigenous peoples in times of COVID-19.
We launched a national campaign to sensitize all the indigenous people. We started on the month of April in about 100 councils, just to sensitize this indigenous population on how to prevent themselves against the coronavirus.
The Intersectorial Monitoring Committee for programs and projects involving vulnerable indigenous peoples is also assessing the actions carried out in favor of indigenous peoples since the outbreak of COVID-19.
One of the major actions which has been realized by Fcfa is the sensitization on the ground. Many programs, TV or radio programs, have been translated in local language.
Meeting in prelude to the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, committee members have also worked on an action plan for the protection of the indigenous peoples.
The government has acquired 3 new ambulances destined to serve some 3 regions to step up the fight against the coronavirus pandemic, a move which Public Health Minister Manauda Malashi says falls in line with government's 3-year emergency plan. On the sidelines, the Special Council Support Fund for Mutual Assistance, FECAM, has donated a sum of 6 million CFA francs into the COVID-19 Solidarity Fund. Beatrice Los Samba has more.
3 brand new ambulances destined for Yaoundé, Douala and Ebolova, the government's latest acquisition to step up response to health emergencies.
We receive 3 ambulances which we on in the procedure of Planut. We are running a SAMI project and we have to facilitate the extraction of patients.
The ambulances are direly needed to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, but the intent goes beyond COVID-19 times, he says. Universal health coverage for all takes effect this year, and the country's material and human resources have to be up to date. The National COVID-19 Solidarity Fund was also updated today with this check of over 6 million CFA francs handed as contribution from the Director General of FECAM and staff, trailed by the junior parliamentarians to the United Nations who are lending their support in the ongoing fight against COVID-19.
More than 350 telecommunications And we shall be coming back to that report, but I have indication that over 1,000 files have been examined by members of the National Commission for the Evaluation of Certificates Issued Abroad. The National Certificate Equivalents met today in Yaoundé for the 96th and 97th ordinary sessions, presided at by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Higher Education, Professor Wilfred Gapsa. And Yoti Kaleli Songe tells us more in that report.
Using ICTs is how the National Commission for the Evaluation of Courses Offered Abroad henceforth examines files. 1,372 of them are to be processed digitally during these 96th and 97th ordinary sessions of the Commission. The electronic management equivalence platform, referred to as GEDEC, is the gateway.
For the UK, we use the Higher Education Degree Data Check. For Canada, we use the ORA data. They are recognized sites, and they give us the true verification and authentication.
This new approach, apart from solving the problem of getting information from universities abroad, also helps them identify unaccredited institutions.
So it's very important for us, because if you come with a certificate from those bogus institutions, we will not be able to authenticate your certificate.
With this, frauds will not be admitted into the system, as officials say it will be just, honest, and give equal value to certificates offered nationally and abroad.
And in religion, Muslim clerics and faithful have prayed for good health in Cameroon and the rest of the globe as the world continues to battle against COVID-19 pandemic. This was echoed during a prayer session to mark the official reopening of the Chinga Islamic complex. Details with Romeo Kenyi.
A supplication for peace, reconciliation, and most especially healing. This was Friday's prayer point at the Chinga Islamic complex. The first sermon, holding 5 months after the worship house, was closed due to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic.
The message that we have for the faithful today is concerning the treatment of psychological disease that human beings used to face during their life.
Amongst those who attended the prayers were some administrative authorities.
We agree with the reopening of the center today. All the measures have been taken here, washing hands with soap and potable water.
The distance between people, each of us has his carpet where to pray, and then there is water, as you see.
While saluting the move of reopening the complex, Muslim clerics and faithful have expressed their will, keeping the area always holy.
Pygmies and villagers of Mengale, situated some 45 kilometers from Ebolova in the South region, have been sensitized on the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. The George Weah Foundation, which is based in Ebolova and headed by Stefan Ezezum, visited the locality to distribute COVID-19 prevention kits to the villagers. Clarence Aze of our South Regional Bureau tells us more in the following report.
Ever since the outbreak of COVID-19, the George Weah Foundation, which is out to promote the values of success and selflessness, has been visiting hinterlands in the South region, raising awareness on the ravaging virus. The coordinator of the foundation, Stefan Endesum, and his team visited Mengale, a village situated some 42 kilometers from Ebolova, to tell villagers and the pygmy population that the pandemic is far from over. COVID-19 is not yet over. The George Weah Foundation is a partner of the government of Cameroon. We cannot fold our arms and just watch the government lead this fight alone. The foundation went along with sanitary kits to enable the villagers practice the preventive measures. The beneficiaries have all expressed gratitude to their benefactor for covering the bumpy roads just to reach them, promising to be on the alert against the virus.
The National Gendarmerie has intercepted a stolen caterpillar and arrested the prime suspect and his accomplices in connection with the long chain of the theft. Officials of the Motorized Road Safety Squad of the 1st Gendarmerie region that carried out the investigation and arrest say it is an extraordinary act by a network of bandits to steal such a gigantic equipment. Kilian Dandifon has more.
This is the suspected master planner of the theft of this caterpillar owned by the Chinese company China Harincom Limited Cam, rehabilitating the Bangante Bafusam Highway. Before the National Gendarmerie intercepted, it was already en route for sale.
We intercepted the caterpillar at Nkomtu near the toll gate. It was destined to Douala through Yaoundé with transport relay teams already positioned.
The prime suspected Kokuo Dipanda had already mutated the documents to his name.
This type of theft is not really ordinary. By this action, we want to reassure the population that the National Gendarmerie is more than ever engaged on the field to track down all outlaws.
The users of the trailer hired to transport the caterpillar have equally been arrested as accomplices and handed over to the competent courts.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
Nursing mothers have been exhorted to continue breastfeeding their babies during the COVID-19 period while respecting all the barrier measures. The call from the nutritionist equally obliged them to regularly wash their hands with soap and clean running water or use hand sanitizers or wear face masks to prevent transmission from mother to child. Baldwin Sama is live at the Emergency for Operation Center with his guest, Marlies Ngede Mponge, a nutritionist, to tell us more. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Gladys Tata, and welcome. I should say it becomes quite disturbing for some of these nursing mothers to know exactly whether or not to continue breastfeeding their children during this particular period that we have the spread of COVID-19 nationwide. It equally becomes quite disturbing for them to know whether or not the breast milk contains the coronavirus and what are some of the modalities that they must respect when they are breastfeeding their children. That is what we shall be discussing with Madame Marlies Mponge Ngide. She is a nutritionist. Good evening, Madam.
Good evening, Mr. Sama. Thank you very much.
Let me find out from you, scientifically speaking, can the breast milk contain the coronavirus?
Normally, when they are talking about breastfeeding, there's no zero risk. I will start by saying that. But specifically, with all the studies that have been carried out to the day of today, they have not found no virus of COVID-19 in breast milk. Instead, they have noticed that for nursing mother who have been confirmed or suspect about COVID-19, they are producing a lot of antibodies and antivirals in their breast milk who can help to protect the baby against the COVID-19 or to fight against the COVID-19 if the baby is sick.
And what are some of the modalities to be respected by these nursing mothers when they're breastfeeding their children during this particular period?
Okay, thank you very much. Normally, the government of Cameroon, during the Ministry of Public Health and its partner, WHO and UNICEF, recommend that all the mothers should be supported during breastfeeding. Normally, if a nursing mother has been confirmed or suspect of COVID-19, normally she has to respect some hygiene measures, like normally before breastfeeding her child, she has to wash her hands. Before taking care of the baby or carrying the baby, she has to wash her hands. And normally if she coughs or she's sneezing, she has to use a tissue and directly after throw the tissue in the dustbin. And also, she has to disinfect all the surface and wash and disinfect and wipe all the surface that she has touched and wear her mask. Those are the recommendations that I have to give to a mother who has been confirmed or suspected of COVID. If a mother is seriously sick or she hasn't been admitted to the hospital, means that she has been separated with her baby. Normally to breastfeed, they can express the milk. The family should help the mother to express the milk and they give to the child, to the baby with a spoon inside the cup.
Thank you so much, Madam Avlis Mponge Gide. You are a nutritionist. The take-home message from here this evening, Gladys Tata, is that nursing mothers should continue breastfeeding their children. They should simply continue respecting all these barrier measures to avoid any infection during this particular period. Back to you, Gladys.
Thank you, Bodwin Sama. Hope the message has gone across. And on to this obituary, the remains of the former minister, commander of the National Order of Valor, John Ebongole, has been coffined at the mortuary of the Yaoundé Referral Hospital here in Yaoundé in Gosso. The 80-year-old senior civil administrator died on July 2, 2020 from an illness. Kilian Dandifon reports on today's corpse removal and funeral service attended by high personalities, amongst them the Prime Minister Joseph John Goute, the Grand Chancellor of the National Order Philemon Yang, and the Deputy Secretary General of the Presidency, Elung Paul Che.
The late John Ebongole was born on January 11, 1940 at Anyandong village in Kupem Mwaninguba division of the Southwest region. Even when he held positions such as Minister in charge of special duties at the Presidency, Governor of the Northwest and Southwest regions, Senior Divisional Officer in almost all divisions in the two regions, Board Chairperson of Sonara, he did not forget his traditional values. In the funeral service that followed at the Bastos congregation of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, the message focused on the race for righteousness, while the eulogies spoke of a kind, gentle, and committed statesperson.
He was appointed Senior Divisional Officer for the first time in 1966. That's like 54 years ago. So it tells what level he's occupied in the power circles of the country. He was a very dedicated civil servant.
The one thing I'll miss the most about my father was that he was very hands-on. He was a very hands-on man. He called you every 2 days to see what you were up to, whether you had done your homework, whether you had eaten, or whether there were any new changes in your life.
The remains of John Ebongole will be buried Saturday, August 8 in Kumba, where the head of state will be represented by the governor of the Southwest region.
In a related development, the remains of Anselm Burgos, a technician at the Cameroon Radio Television who passed on last July 8, were coffined at the mortuary of the Yaoundé University Teaching Hospital this Friday. The body was later conveyed to his native Mbakop in the Sanaga Maritime Division in the Littoral region. CRTV's Alice Mbe attended the emotion-packed removal and has the details.
Late Anselm Burgos was one of the pioneer technicians who took part in the transitioning of the Cameroon Television (CTV) to the Cameroon Radio and Television Corporation (CRTV) in 1987. He worked at the technical department, the production units, and served at the Out Broadcast Van before his demise on July 8 from an illness.
It is a very difficult moment for us. He was an exceptional colleague. His departure is a great loss for CRTV.
His family has described his departure as irreplaceable.
He was a good head of family, very gentle and attentive. We worked very hard to raise the family.
After the coffining in Yaoundé today, his remains are en route to his native Makop in the Sanaga Maritime Division of the Littoral region, where he will be buried this Saturday.
Senior Superintendent of Police Jacques Kameni, who retired from the Corps in 2014, will be laid to rest Saturday in his native Bameka in the West region of Cameroon. The senior citizen, who died last June 26, has been given military honors this Friday at the esplanade of the Yaoundé Police Academy in the presence of the representative of the Delegate General for National Security, Police Commissioner Vogo Jean-Marie. The final honors come shortly after his remains were removed from the Ekunu mortuary. Late Police Superintendent Jacques Kameni joined the police corps in 1982, retired as Inspector General No. 2 after occupying several posts of responsibility. He leaves behind a widow, children and grandchildren to mourn him. And family members of late business tycoon Victor Fotso, who died on March 20, 2020 in Paris, France, have prayed for the repose of his soul. This was during a holy mass at his Bastos residence, officiated by Monsignor Christophe Zoa, Bishop of Saint-Melimba, in the presence of the Bishop of Obala, Monsignor Sosten Leopold Bayemi. Gerald Nanji completes that story.
Victor Futso has been described as a promoter of socio-economic and spiritual development. While officiating the Mass, the Bishop of St. Milima, Monseigneur Christophe Zoua, prayed that God should accept his servant in his heavenly kingdom. Prayers were equally said for God to bless and protect the family he has left behind. His children and grandchildren have saluted the role the patriarch played not only in their lives, but in the society at large.
Today we prayed for the soul of our father. As many people know, he was a Christian. He built many churches all around the world, not only in his Banjul hometown. And today we were calling people to pray with us for his soul, so that he would rest in peace.
The Holy Mass was attended, among others, cabinet ministers, traditional rulers and close friends. Victor Futso, who died 4 months ago in Paris, France, was buried on June the 20th, 2020 at his native Banjul village.
Côte d'Ivoire today marks 60 years after independence from French colonial rule. The independence celebrations coincide with the announcement by President Ouattara to run for the October presidential poll. Charles Ebouné has more.
Je suis donc candidat.
The Ouattara candidature for the Côte d'Ivoire October presidential poll was a whirl of circumstances.
It is a very particular context where he previously announced he was leaving office, he was not going for another term, and now, under unforeseen circumstances, he is going to run again.
The announcement made on the eve of the 60 years of the country's international personality was more of a political than a legal calculus.
It is a political decision, which is a major one, and as a political decision, there are probably going to be protesters, as there are also supporters.
Although the decision will be challenged by opponents based on the new constitutional dispensation, candidate Ouattara counts on a 10-year track record.
He did well on the macroeconomic objectives he had. Côte d'Ivoire from 2011 till 2019 has a growth which is around 8% of GDP. And I think in Francophone Africa, he is the best in class on that.
Over a decade now, the country has known some political drama, which seem to be over yet.
And in sports, PWD of Bamenda are planning to take the upcoming CAF Championship by storm. The team's technical director, Tama Wango, has announced plans to recruit the best players expected to fly the flag of the club at the continental level. Details with Winston Lepka from Bamenda.
This is Tama Wango, the technical director of PWD of Bamenda. He's confident that the Abakwa boys' plan of action will yield dividends as the team quietly goes about injecting new blood.
We are thinking of having a new goalkeeper. We are thinking of having some defenders. We are thinking of having some midfielders. We are thinking of having some strikers who come to reinforce the team. And so far, the negotiation with about 8 of these players are far gone, and we are just waiting for the opportunity to officialize them.
They'll be facing the creme de la creme of African club football and have to protect their recently acquired top-flight status.
We have 2 internationals coming from Nigeria. They have had CAF competition experience before. We also have Cameroonian players who have been exposed to the CAF competition, and so we think that if they come in, they are really going to, boost the team psychologically.
PWD will need to be sharp physically and mentally to be able to silence their critics.
We have confidence in our boys. They are very young, they are very enthusiastic, they are very zealous, they want to make a name for themselves.
They'll be defending their League One title, contending for the Cameroon Cup, and trying to prove their mettle amongst the elite of African club football in the new season. A daunting prospect, but not impossible to achieve.
Well, that report from Bamenda draws the curtains on this edition of the news. But before we take leave of you, 300 people attend Governor's Caucus virtual meeting of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund hosted by Cameroon, with resolutions to be submitted in the next annual gathering. Plus, actions to alleviate the plight of vulnerable indigenous people are under scrutiny, and they were assessed today in Yaoundé by members of the Intersector Monitoring Committee under the patronage of the Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irene Ngene. And a former statesman, senior civil administrator John Ebongole, began his final journey to the world beyond. He was coffined today at the Yaoundé Referral Hospital mortuary. Join Atta Badine Umar in under 30 minutes for Louventure Trant. I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Good night and keep safe.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing